Guy, the floor is yours.
Maybe I can start with the last. First of all, I want to thank Elmar for his comments, and he has already responded to a few points that have been raised by members of the AFCO committee. So I don't have to repeat him on what he said. But I want to start with what Yarigby and Mr. Scholz had said. That's exactly the purpose of the resolution. The new resolution, I think it's time that the European Parliament says how we see it. And not says, oh, we're going to wait. Wait for what? It's, we want a close relationship between the UK and the EU. There are a number of red lines, because that plays a role. The red lines that are put on the table by the UK side, that plays an important role, because in my opinion, the best future relationship is that the UK stays in the single market. So that's not possible, because from British side they all say, yeah, but we cannot guarantee the full freedoms, especially not the freedom of movement of people. So these red lines play an important role, but within taking in account the red lines, I think it's time that the European Parliament express itself on how we see it, on what basis of the treaty we want to establish that relationship, and what are the different, as I have explained, 4 building blocks of it, and how it will work. And I think it's not necessary to now wait and to say, oh, let's first of all see how it goes further into the formalization of the withdrawal agreement or on transition. No, I think we are, in fact, less than, not than 1 year. In fact, it's 6 months. In October, November, there has to be the text of the withdrawal agreement on the table of the Parliament, with an annex, or not an annex, we shall see how it will be done, with a political declaration on the future relationship. And that political declaration on the future relationship, we have an interest as European Parliament that it is detailed, so that everybody knows what will be that future relationship, and that it's not something that it's too general. So that's the reason why I think it's absolutely needed that in the coming weeks the Parliament express itself on that issue, on that future relationship, and not in 1 paragraph or in 2 paragraphs, but expressing in detail how we see the different types of cooperation between the UK and the EU. That's what we are working on. And in that sense, Mr. Schöpflin, there will be a dispute resolution of a dispute mechanism. Could be also different dispute mechanisms, because we are talking about 1 partnership, but with different chapters or different agreements. There's going to be a free trade agreement, probably, because there's going to be probably an agreement on thematic cooperation. And in this thematic cooperation, there could be different arrangements. And when it concerns, for example, Euratom, you cannot put that in the same arrangement as, for example, Erasmus or the Horizon 2020. That will be different arrangements. And then the same on internal security, the same on external security. So it will be a range of agreements where we are saying that has been the position of Parliament from day 1. Let's use Article 8 and let's use Article 217 to put that into a logic in a logic framework. And Article 8, Mr. Schöpflin, is still applicable. I don't see Britain going out of our values. That's not I see. They go out of the Union, not of our values. I don't see tomorrow a British government. No, I have sometimes a bad character. I could compare it with Hungary, but I will not do it. So, no, exactly. That's what I mean. But that was a joke. So only a joke. But a joke with some kind of reality behind, in fact. But So it's not a question of changing the values. That is not what Britain is doing. Britain is leaving the Union. Britain is leaving the policies of the Union, or want another relationship. That is what we are working about. I don't see them going out of the values that are underpinning the Union. Hopefully not. We are not expecting that. Then on the future relationship and what Mr. Des said, I spoke already of the red lines that makes the single market impossible, that makes this and that, the different options impossible, and you fall them back to from the British side. It is Mr. Tusk who has said that. I'm only repeating what Tusk has said. It's also an illusion to think that the problems can be solved with a so-called ambitious managed divergence, because that's the latest buzzword. Ambitious managed divergence. What does it mean? That's in fact a word to define the so-called three baskets that they want. A basket where there will be fields and policies where there is full alignment with the Union. Others where there will be no alignment anymore with the Union, and then an intermediate field where there will be negotiation between the Union and the UK about unalignment, what is not the EU acquis for the moment. Yeah, for us and for the Union, this is an unacceptable way of trying to establish a new relationship, but it is exactly cherry picking. Yeah? You put financial services puff in basket 1 or in 2 or in 3, and fish, I don't know where you put it, and what you do with import of cars and what you do. So that is absolutely not possible, and that's the reason why Donald Tusk said this is an illusion to continue on that track, and I hope that on Friday Mrs. May will give a good indication, show how from the British side they see that future relationship, and that will be absolutely key and necessary to speed up the negotiations on the second phase. Mr. Jadowski has said about flexibility, it's only obligations. Not true. Not true. The acquis communautaire is not only obligations. It are also rights, the acquis communautaire. During transition, there will be a number of policies that will continue in favor of the UK. The UK will continue to be in Horizon 2020. UK will continue to benefit from Erasmus. UK will continue also the policies. It is not only, EU acquis means only obligations. No, no. You know that very well in Poland, that it is not only obligations, the EU acquis, but that it is also money, policies, where you are benefit from. No, what it means is EU acquis continues, but Britain will not be longer on the table where we further decide on that EU acquis in the Parliament, in the Commission, in the Council, in the Court of Justice, in the Court of Auditors, and so on. That it means. But this is not only obligations. Don't say that. Acquis is also advantages, and so on. Then on Ireland, have been different interventions, Mrs. Dodds and Mr. James, and so on. I'm simply repeating what is in the resolutions of the Parliament. Parliament doesn't want to see a hard border, doesn't want to see a hardening of the border, thinks that at the end a regulatory alignment is the best way to achieve this. And some are saying, yeah, but you don't refer to the withdrawal agreement will not refer apparently to paragraph 50 of the progress report. Well, I think that the thinking of those who are making and formalizing this withdrawal agreement is that paragraph 50 of the progress report is about the avoidance of an internal border between Northern Ireland and the rest of Britain. And they see it as an internal British issue and not as an issue for the withdrawal agreement. That's, I think, the thinking of those who are writing the withdrawal agreement for the moment. That the withdrawal agreement is about withdrawal issues, not about points that are, or elements that are in fact internal, an internal affair of Britain and not an affair between the European Union on the one hand and Britain. So on the transition, I want to make clear that the transition will be part of the withdrawal agreement. There will not be two separate issues. The withdrawal agreement will have a chapter only about transition and will be agreed together with the withdrawal agreement. And will come to us naturally together with the withdrawal agreement. And the question, as it said, yeah, what will happen if there is no withdrawal agreement and if a cliff edge scenario? And that nobody wants. You have to prepare yourself for it, but we don't want it, a cliff edge scenario. And it's true that we were a little bit more flexible on timing. We are saying, yeah, look, if it cannot be December 2020 and it is a few months later, that's not the problem. It cannot be too long. Why it cannot be too long? Because if you make the transition so long that it becomes, yeah, like the permanent system, then you're undermining, in fact, Article 50. That's in fact against the philosophy of Article 50. But that transition is possible. Yes, take for example when that's another argument for a transition. When a country comes in the European Union based on Article 49, not goes out based on Article 50, there are also transitions foreseen. Yeah. There is even transitions for 7 years long in the Union. Huh? When it concerns, for example, the Schengen acquis, some countries are still in transition. So transition is possible, but you have to be very careful with it. You cannot make it a system that is replacing, in fact, the withdrawal and a permanent system. So that is not possible. But a certain flexibility we have from day one, and Almar knows it, said until 3 years for us, we see that possible. That's not in the Commission. Mr. Barnier sticks to December 2020. So I think that I already answered to Mrs. McGuinness, only saying that yeah, it's not until now to March, but from now to October. That that is in 6 months. Let's be honest. It is in 6 months that we have to conclude withdrawal agreement, transition inside withdrawal agreement, and a political declaration on the future relationship. Mr. Fox is right on the voting rights. That depends on member states. Maybe it's a good idea that now from the Conservative Party you want that the voting rights in the European Union, that we can fix that on the European level. I'm not against it. I am a federalist, so I'm not against it. But that's not what is happening. For the moment, that depends from the member states, but we are in favor, as you know, as you have indicated. I have taken note of your concerns about the spouses. So I will also ask to the AFCO committee to have exactly the 2-3 key detailed points that you have asked me, so that I can respond to you directly. Mrs. Silva Pereira spoke about an important issue concerning the new system. I think that from our side we can accept that the UK government is preparing the new system during the transition period. That we can understand, because you cannot stop from day one, have a new system, even when I should ask you not to use anymore the word settled status, because it's not in the progress report anymore, settled status. So the system, the status for citizens, EU citizens living in the future in the UK is a status, and the word settled status is not longer be used anymore in the progress report. But that's not what we use. You use it, yeah, but you use, for example, also the transition period. You call it implementation period. What is completely crazy, naturally, but I think it's a transition. But okay, if you need that for political reasons, you can continue with implementation. But I stick to the progress report because that has been adopted by both sides. And there is, so that they prepare that system, that new system, let's call it like that, that we can agree on it. The new system for citizens, that's okay. But what cannot happen is that during the transition, new citizens coming to the UK should have a different status, different rights, different possibilities as those who are already there. That cannot happen. And I was very specific in saying you come, for example, after withdrawal, but for transition, then you are a normal EU citizen falling under the acquis with the same rights. And you can then apply as whatever EU citizens already living in Britain for the so-called new status, let's say, for this right. That's all. But that the UK government will prepare all this, that we fully accept. There is no doubt about it. When we don't want that, that there are two types then in the future of EU citizens living there. Those living already before withdrawal will have different rights and then different possibilities than those coming afterwards. Of those coming afterwards withdrawal, who have, in fact, less possibilities than those who were living before withdrawal. Acquis is acquis. And for goods and services, there will be no differentiation. We cannot accept that there is a differentiation for EU citizens. That's our point. It's the point of the Commission, it's the point of the Council, and let's hope that it is also clarified by Mrs. May on Friday. That should be very helpful, I think, also to kickstart the next phase of the negotiation. Then Mrs. James has said something about Belgium, that something of a colony of something, she said about Belgium. But you have to know, we were occupied by the Dutch, by the Spanish, by the Austrians, by the French, lately occupied by the Germans during the Second World War, and we are very pleased with the European Union. That's the best way to be independent and not to be a colony. That's to be in the European Union. And all our history, occupied by Dutch, Spanish, Austrian, French, German, show how good it is that we are in the European Union. Yeah, that were we ourselves. That were the Bourgondies. The same. I finished, Mr. Schopfler.